Hey, what's up everyone? My name's Chris. I post mountain bike and ski related content. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But today I want to talk to you about my Schwalbe Racing Ray tires. Give you my feedback on them after 4 years of abuse and use. As you see here on my Specialized Epic Evo, I have the Schwalbe Racing Ray here on the front. It is the Attic Speed compound in the super ground casing in 29 by 2.35. It weighs roughly 750 grams. The race series or super race series weighs in about the same, but it has a little bit more compliant of a casing, so it rolls a bit faster. All right, let's first talk about what matters most with a tire: grip. The Racing Ray has rather tight spacing right along the center of the tread to reduce rolling resistance. It has transition knobs kind of alternatingly spaced between the corner knobs, and it has pretty substantial corner knobs. This provides a very smooth and predictable feel out on the trail. At all steering and lean angles, the tire feels like it has grip. There's not really any dead zones like you might find on a tire with larger spacing between the center and corner knobs, like a Maxxis DHF. When you do reach the limit of this tire's cornering grip, it lets go in a very smooth and predictable way. It doesn't just leave you high and dry and wash out. It sort of slowly tends to drift, which I think is a very admirable and desired trait for a front tire. Secondly, this tire has pretty great braking traction for a cross-country tire. It's not a downhill tire that if you grab a handful of front brake, it's just going to send you over the bars or stop and on dime, but it does provide a substantial amount of grip for the tread compounds and casings that we're looking at here in the cross-country space. Now, this is mostly in dry and loose over hard or medium conditions. It provides this great braking traction when things get wet and muddy, wet roots, wet rocks. The tire can feel a little bit skittery. If you're coming into a corner really hard braking and you do hit some wet roots or rocks, the tire is going to kind of bounce around or make the front of the bike bounce around between those. It's not going to just straight line and brake over those surfaces, which I think is to be expected with any sort of cross-country tire. But the Speed Grip compound and the super ground casing, I do believe, provide just enough wet weather performance for daily cross-country bike use. All right, now let's talk about another important aspect for a cross-country tire or any mountain bike tire is rolling resistance. And this tire rolls extremely well. The center knobs here of this tire are spaced very closely together, and this provides great rolling resistance when in a straight line. And additionally, when you lean the bike over into a corner, it still rolls very fast through those corners while providing grip. So like a more downhill oriented tire, as you lean it into a corner, it's going to provide tons of grip, but it's actually going to kind of slow you down as you get onto the side knobs because it's digging in like cleats into the dirt. This provides a very good balance of cornering traction and rolling resistance on straight and in the corners. Now, I'm sure the Super Race casing rolls faster than the Super Ground casing because it is a little bit softer and more supple casing, but the Super Race, as of posting this video, is only available in the Speed Race compound. So that is why I opted for the super ground casing so that I could get the Speed Grip compound. It provides just enough assurance on the wet days that we have here in Maryland, which are pretty frequent. Additionally, this Racing Ray performed very well on bicyclerollingresistance.com on their metal drum test. So my perception of how this tire rolls in the real world line up with what Bicycle Rolling Resistance reports. All right, now let's talk durability. Out of the 4 years that I have been using and abusing this tire, I had one flat. And that flat should have sealed if I had actually been keeping up with the amount of sealant that I had in the tire. So basically that one's on me. I would say after 4 years of use, riding this thing basically like an enduro bike on some trails that people would prefer to have an enduro bike on, I'm beyond thrilled with the durability of these tires. The super ground casing really holds up to sharp, jagged rocks that we have here on the East Coast. Now, I'm not sure if the Super Race series would hold up just as well, but the super ground casing, A+. Now let's talk about the tread life of this tire. Every roughly 500 miles, I found myself replacing the front tire, and I ride like an over-caffeinated gorilla on the trails. I ride very aggressively and loose, so someone who's a much lighter rider or has potentially less rocky terrain could see much more mileage out of the tire than that. I wouldn't be surprised if you're getting 1,000 miles out of this tire if you ride less aggressively, way less, and just don't have generally as much rocky terrain. So to summarize, the Schwalbe Racing Ray is a very predictable and durable front tire for daily use on a cross-country bike. Now, the only improvements that I would like to see Schwalbe make with this tire would be to offer it in a 2.4-inch size instead of 2.35. I know this might seem like a minor change, but even just a small change in tire volume will allow you to run lower tire pressures and increase the front tire traction and grip, and decrease rolling resistance. This would also allow the tire to better compare versus other models in the market, which are a 2.4-inch width, like Maxxis, Vittoria, and others. The second thing that I would like to see Schwalbe do with this tire is to offer the Super Race casing and speed grip compound together. Usually you can run a little bit lighter casing on the front because you're not just bashing it off of the rocks with your rear legs. You know, you're pushing into obstacles with your arms and generally have a better view of where the front tire is going. So you can use a little bit lighter casing on the front. But I really liked the wet traction and grip out of the speed grip, and I would be hesitant to use just the Speed Race compound, especially in the wet terrain that we have here in Maryland pretty often. All right, that's gonna wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you wanna follow along for more videos like this, be sure to hit subscribe. If there's anything that I missed or any other questions that you have about this tire, just drop a comment down below and I'll get back to you. That's it. See you next video.